We're going to do it. We're going to do it. Let's go around the room. Over here is Brett Hedlund.
Hello.
What do you do, Brett?
I edit.
And direct, right?
Direct.
Yeah.
Dabble in writing. That's as far as I've gotten.
Very cool. Excellent. I'm
on drums over here. Peter Facinelli over here on drums.
It is a drummer name, right? Yeah. Peter Facinelli on drums.
Yeah.
No, you need a cooler name. Something, I don't know. Got to come up with a cool drummer name.
Ooh,
yeah.
That's good. Pete Fast. That's good.
That's it.
People call me P Fatch. I think it sounds like a venereal disease. I just came back from the doctor. What? I got the P Fatch.
That's why there's one chair between.
In the biz, we call that a buffer.
I'm an actor. I direct. I write. I produce.
Yep.
That's it. That's about it.
Awesome.
That's a lot. That's enough.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Sacha.
Composer, doing music for films, composition, orchestration, conducting, wherever it's involved with like music for films.
Nice.
Sasha's from Brooklyn, if anybody
total Brooklyn.
you don't understand his accent.
Yeah. Total Brooklyn accent.
And over here to my right is Michael Mintz.
Hello.
Hey.
Colorist for television and feature films.
Nice. Very cool.
Now, when you were a kid, did you play with crayons? I just know that. Like all the time.
Actually, I was a geek for audio at first.
Were you?
Yeah.
I just see you with like a box of 64 Crayolas.
Never in the lines. Never in the lines.
Right. Cool. And we're expecting Peter Winther to show up.
Winter is coming.
He's
that's a good one.
Here all day. Or not really, just an hour.
So yeah, that's we're hosting a little panel today to get to know some really key players and the things that they do to help make the movies that we all enjoy. And basically, I do sound for movies and television, so we kind of have it all covered. Writer, I guess we don't have a camera. Or we don't have a DP.
You had Tony.
No,
you had Tony here the other day.
That's true. That's true.
Well, we were supposed to have David actually, right?
Yeah, David's at work today.
Yeah, so there's that.
But so anyway, we want to cover all the bases so people can learn and understand what like every step of the way, where and how things can happen and can you have successes, things fall apart in a matter of seconds. One phone call, Peter and I have done 2 movies together, and the last one we did there is just chocked full of incredible
fun
stories that he'll be telling some of them, hopefully as many as he wants to today. But
I'm still in therapy. For a few,
what really
many.
has to happen? How committed you are to get your project done.
Should be committed.
Yeah. So anyway, Brett, let's just talk. Let's start with you. What are you currently working on right now?
Well, finishing up a couple projects that I'm working on with you.
Yeah.
So we've got Mikkey Kelley that's locked, which is kind of a story about a jiu-jitsu instructor who gets into the world of MMA as it starts to become popular.
Right.
Sean Patrick.
Comedy for kids.
But I'm shocked how popular this sport is.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's really a thing.
Yeah,
Jiu-jitsu
yeah.
and MMA is just like...
When I was a kid, I saw The Karate Kid. And right away, I was like, I got to take karate lessons. So I ran to like the nearest karate place and I signed up. But I was like, I don't know, 16 at the time. And I signed a year-long contract to be in the karate class. And little did I know, like after the first class, like you have to lift your feet up and then hold it there. And then he'd come over with a ruler and smack your feet if you put them down. And I was like, yeah, that hurts. And I don't want to do it anymore.
Not doing that.
This was not in the Karate Kid.
wax on, wax off.
Yeah, that I could do.
That didn't hurt.
Slapping me with a ruler in the feet, that's just abuse. So I was like, I want to quit. And he was like, no, you signed a contract.
Wow.
So then, but then I was underage, so I was able to get out of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
It all worked out.
Yeah.
Right?
Very good.
Well, good. So we're in the actual on Wheels of Fortune. Another one that we're doing. We're like about to finish that. Comedy, very, very funny. Very funny.
What's that one about?
Well, how would you describe that? It's kind of like
it's a sports comedy.
Talladega Nights.
Yeah.
Type intellectual humor.
Yeah.
Did you write that one?
No, I edited that one.
Nice.
But It's a hoot.
Yeah, it is very, very funny. Yeah. And then, so Peter, we were talking before we were rolling. What you just recently were in New Orleans and Oklahoma City.
Yeah,
filming,
back to back.
filming 2 projects.
Yeah,
Cool.
that one I was acting in both of those. So I did a movie called The Ravine, which shot in New Orleans, which was really fun. I love New Orleans. I haven't shot there since early 2000s. I did a movie in the early 2000s called Tempted with Burt Reynolds, which was kind of amazing experience. It was an all improv movie. And so that was a cool experience, and working with Burt Reynolds was really awesome.
Well, and then when you say improv, what do you mean by that? Like,
it was a 25-page script.
Okay.
So the scenes basically were just descriptions and information that you needed to get out, like plot points.
Got it.
So it would say like, just say this was a scene. Peter Facinelli sits with 6 people, discusses film, experiences, and these are the things that you need to get out. And then it would have like things for you to get out and things for you. And then when you roll action, it's game's on. Like there's no dialogue, so you just have to what you kind of have to say in that scene and where the scene needs to be, but you're listening and trying to like organically have that happen. But it was a really interesting experience. I mean, actors we're creatures of habit, so once we're on like take 3, we've kind of formed the scene, and then you're kind of sticking around that zone. It varies a little bit, but not much, and the director would shape it a little bit.
That's cool.
So when you're going to do other sides, move the camera around, he's able to cut it because you're kind of in the same space each take.
How does that work with blocking? Like, are you guys in this area?
Yeah.
Because
well, again, like the first couple of takes, might be vastly different, but then you kind of feel something that's comfortable, and then you're kind of sticking around.
So it's like rehearsal, and then you're kind of getting
so you're kind of creating the scenes as you go.
Gotcha.
But it's wonderful in this aspect. One, I never had to memorize lines, which was great. But seriously, like the thing that was really wonderful about it was it forced you to really listen, because you never knew what the other person was going to say. A lot of times actors, they know they're just so focused on what they want to do,
Right.
And when you're doing improv, you really have to listen. And so what I do as a director sometimes, and even when I'm not directing, I'll sometimes do this. I'll say, hey, can we improv this take? And a lot of times the take is exactly the same because the actor's like afraid to vary, or they don't know where to go with it. It might vary by 1 line or 2 lines, but it's forcing the other actor to listen, because they're like, oh shit, he might say something different right now, so I have to listen. And so it's just kind of perks the person up. So I kind of use that as a little
A question for that. Do you ever pull like a huddle with the talent that you're in a scene with, and if you get an improv situation like that where you kind of go, hey, this time let's change it up completely? Like, do you ever give any like forewarning that you're going to change if you can, or do you just like completely flip the script?
Sometimes you want to be respectful to the other actors too. You know what I mean? Some people don't like improv. Sometimes directors don't want you to go veering off. Especially in television, they're very much like, if you want to change 1 word in television, it's 5 phone calls.
Wow.
Because everybody's signed off on that. So you want to be respectful to the process. A lot of times, if I do want to improv something, I'll go to the director and ask them, because that's
because it's going to affect the whole.
Yeah, it affects things. But sometimes, if you're in the middle of a moment and you spark to say something different, and it's in the moment, or you spark to do something a little different, I'm not going to stop the scene and go, hey, do you mind if I do this or don't do this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You literally just go with it and hope that, as long as you're being respectful, not like,
Is that when you find
punching somebody in the face?
You're really in characters when that.
Yeah, you pray for those moments. I mean, really, like, I pray for moments that I don't think of, or things that kind of keep me on my toes, or things that kind of break that feeling. Sometimes if you do a scene too many times, it just gets stale.
Sure.
So you're just hoping that something like, oh, the water bottle fell over and I caught it in the middle of the scene, and and I kept going, and it was just a natural kind of thing, and it looked, so yeah, for sure.
I would think it adds a certain amount of energy, or different kind of energy, when people are reacting to something new all the
Yeah.
time, whereas they're, like you say, it gets stale after a while because they're expecting something.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that process of filmmaking, of doing the improvisational film, because like you have to know your characters so well,
Right.
because you have to do your homework. You know, it forces you to do your homework too, because if you're in the middle of the scene and, you know, Burt Reynolds says, "Oh, what kind of music you like?" You know, you can't be like, "Oh, what kind of music would my character like?" You got to know what CD, like what's playing in your car right now,
Yeah, right,
what's in
right,
your
right.
queue, like what do you
Yeah.
like? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You can't be thinking about it, so
Right.
you have to know every detail. Because you can't be thrown, you know? So the homework really isn't memorizing lines, which a lot of actors get stuck on. It's really deep character work and knowing everything about your character, and then just literally letting it all go and listening, and then, you know, it's very much like life, because when you're going anywhere, you gotta know what you're going shopping, you know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? You're going to a meeting, you know what you kind of want to say. You know what I mean? So everything is kind of like improvisational in life.
Absolutely, it is.
Right.
So working that way was truly freeing, and I really liked it, because it was like, all right, this is the information that we needed to get out, and we'll see how it comes out. You know?
You know, it's something that I love about this process is when, one thing I picked up from you when we were doing Hour of Lead is there were things that you had written in the script that came across through the character, and then with the sound and eventually the score and then the color, you create this thing that is consistent with that character. I'm getting goosebumps about it, by the way, just how like incredible,
It's cold in here. That's why.
how incredible it can be to use those very subtle indicators for characters or locations or something like that brings something to your character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like your theme or
right.
the character's theme. Or I remember working on The Shield. We purposely made it very organically crunchy.
Yeah.
It was like
Great description. Right?
That matched the visual feel of
That's
the show.
exactly what we did. That's
Yeah.
exactly why we did it, is
Yeah.
to help enhance the nasty, like sometimes tragic shit that was happening on screen, you know? And what I want to do is direct this to you, Michael. To what level do you feel like the creative part of doing color helps tell the story? Like, how do you like to, I only know this one phrase, so I'm going to say it so I can sound cool.
Let it out. Let it out.
Like when they want things to feel cold and kind of dismal, you crunch the blacks, right?
Yeah.
You do that
crunch
thing.
the blacks, desaturate.
Right.
You know, color is mood.
Right.
First of all, you know, I'm of service to the picture and to the director and the director of photography and the story, because if you do something that goes against that grain, you pull the viewer out of the story. Same thing goes with composing and sound. It has to help the story. So that being said, you know, you take a look at the scene and see where the mood is,
Right.
and you kind of just match the look with the mood.
And you have to do you sit and have a conversation with the editor and the director and
Absolutely.
and sit down and go, okay, so what are you guys thinking for this? Like, what can we do with the color to make this feel?
It really, yeah, absolutely. I sit down with as many creatives on that project as possible, like you and I were talking, Brent. I mean, it's really helpful that everyone's on the same page. Creatively, that
Right.
you know, this is how we want this project to look, and you know, rather than just one person taking a guess at it.
Sure.
And we sit and I look at the offline, and we talk about, okay, where do we want to go with this?
Do we need to explain what an
I was just going to say, this is for our listeners.
A rough cut of the project, basically.
Exactly.
And even further back, if I may, a layman like me, I don't know it nearly
Guys,
as much
by the
as
way,
you
this
do.
is my partner, Jason. This is my partner. We do a podcast.
We do indeed. What is a colorist? I mean, what is your role in creating a film? I would anybody who doesn't know anything about film wouldn't know what a colorist is.
That's a great question.
Yeah,
Great
it is.
question.
And it's a fun one too. Because
It is.
think back to like Black and White and then The
Noir.
Wizard of Oz.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what this
That
guy
evokes-
does.
that's
He's
a
the
great
man
example.
behind the curtain.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. When
Great
that
example.
door, when her bedroom door opened and she was in the land of Oz, and that color, that Technicolor hit you, that evokes an emotion.
Yeah.
And so that's what kind of colorist does. He or she sets the tone of the imagery. Whether, like you said, if it's really contrasty and crunchy and dark and cold, that evokes a mood.
Right.
And
An unspoken mood too.
yeah,
right?
absolutely. It has to be subliminal, because if it's over the top,
Much like
Takes you out
music.
of the film.
right? If it's over the top, then the viewer's like, oh,
I think that's-
it's bothering me.
I want to talk about that because that's really important. I
Yeah.
think for everyone at this table here,
Every department. Yeah.
department,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's like if you do something
Yeah.
that takes you out of the movie,
Yeah.
then you've failed at your job.
Right.
Yep.
From color to sound,
Yep.
to editing to acting
Yeah.
and directing to
So true.
to-
Yeah.
I've heard, and I
Score
know you.
as well.
I know we've all heard this. I've heard editors talk about having to cut around performances.
Yeah.
And to me,
or
that's
create
or
performances.
exactly cut
Yeah.
performances together, right? I mean, this is why we're doing this today. This is the meat and potatoes of making movies.
So cool.
Is the secret sauce stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
The secrets of sitting in a dark room and you have your workstation and you become an artist.
Right.
But one of the biggest elements of that, and I think it's so important to reiterate, is like if you do a hard cut that takes you out of the movie, or you color something and it's out of the movie, or I tell Sacha all the time, like, it must be really hard for you as a composer, because if you do your job right, nobody hears your music.
I know.
Exactly.
That's
yeah.
exactly
Nobody hears
right.
it.
That's
Same
If
with
you're
my job.
hearing the composing, it's bad.
Right. It's
Yeah.
Because the composing is supposed to make you feel
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
something in the scene.
Right.
Yep.
Now, if the actors are doing their job and you hear it and you're hearing the score, it's taking you out of the movie,
Yeah.
and therefore you've done a bad job.
Right.
So
Right.
his whole job is to literally have the audience not hear him.
Yep.
Well,
You know?
other than
So
the
crazy to think
montage,
about.
when you have the score take over,
Yeah.
Right.
which
Right.
is a very
Powerful
thing. Yeah, the emotional thing.
A great example, visually speaking, of that is the show House of Cards. Okay, the viewer may not realize it, but it is a really uncomfortable look.
With color.
Yeah, with color. Everything that takes place on on Capitol Hill, especially in the White House, it just had this tone that just made you feel, just a sense of unease. That's a good job as far
And
as
it's absolutely intentional on their
absolutely,
part.
yeah. David Fincher
it's
was
a
like
feeling. It's
it's
a mood.
and David Fincher is a king of that. I mean, he really just
Mindhunter, man.
Oh,
So good.
really good.
Yeah.
And
And
you do feel incredibly
color.
uncomfortable.
Right.
And,
You know,
and take a
performance as
look
well.
at Mindhunter if you're listening, and take a look at House of Cards, and just without sound, look at the color, and then you'll feel
that's a
great
what,
idea.
what
Right.
what we're talking about. You'll feel the mood.
Yeah.
Especially like a movie like Seven. Fincher
my
is
God.
really good with the color, because like you look at the color of that, and you feel something.
Right.
Even when you're looking at one frame of it, you feel it.
Right.
Well, even when we color, we usually turn the audio off, so we just focus mainly on
Absolutely.
the picture to feel what it's
if it's
supposed to.
getting if it's getting the
Now,
mood across.
why would you do that?
Because you can get distracted by the sound,
Oh, okay.
and then you're not paying attention to what you should be getting the feeling of the picture.
Interesting.
From color, yeah.
Especially if you're a director, sitting and watching the color. If you're listening to sound, your brain's saying, "Oh, I need to work on that." It's
I
like
see.
so that's distraction.
Yeah.
Well, that's also a sign of a good movie, is when you get caught up in the movie. Then we're all making movies so you escape life, right?
Right.
So a good movie makes you get caught up in it and you escape.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to do your job and it actually is good and it's sucking you in, you're actually starting to watch and get hypnotized by the performance. Then
Yeah.
you're forgetting, like, oh, I got to color that. And so like it is the distraction.
That's
Right.
That's
so
true.
it's better. I often, for directing and acting, would watch movies without sound, because a good movie, you could tell what's going on with the actors, just by the way they're moving and their performances without sound, you could tell what is happening in that scene.
Right.
And the camera shots and the angles and the cuts, what I mean? You could see all that. So it's another great experiment to do is watch some of your favorite movies without sound. You'll be able to see the cuts and you'll be able to see the color and you'll be able to see things that you normally wouldn't see with the sound there.
Right.
And the actors too, you'll be able to see like, is he using his body to tell the story?
Yeah.
What was that? Oh, that was that eyebrow move right there. Which you wouldn't notice before.
That's a good point.
Yep.
That's great. Yeah. So Sacha, we did talk about that a little bit on your podcast that you were on, where, your whole job is to really not be heard necessarily unless it's a montage, as we just said. So what is your approach to actually kind of riding that line of having a presence but not really being heard, just kind of underlining the film?
Well, sometimes it depends on the directors as well. The first thing Peter told me when we worked together, it was like he wanted to have like this music here, but not that presence, unless it is like a very important cue, like an opening titles or end credits or
right,
whatever.
Of course.
It's like you need like the music in front, and I actually do agree with that. It's important when you have a dialogue, if you hear the music in front of the dialogue, that doesn't work.
Right.
It takes you out of a story.
Krupple, do you deal with that a lot when you're mixing?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
So is it
raise this?
Yep. Yep.
Is it less notes, less busy composition?
Well, it's like sometimes it's an orchestration problem. If you put an instrument that is in the same frequency as the dialogue,
good point.
It can take off like the.
I'm
That's
really
a great
glad
point.
you said that,
Yeah.
Sacha, because something that I've been dealing with a little bit, actually a lot of it,
Let it
is
out.
We're here for you, Michael. We're here for you.
is when you have compositions that are in the same frequency range as the dialogue. For example, the piano. That I have to EQ the shit out of that piano, and it doesn't sound anything like it was delivered to me.
So
to make it to sit so that the dialogue is king, right? All the dialogue is absolutely the most important thing. Then basically comes the music, right?
Oh yeah, it depends on the piano. Piano, if you put like some bassy sound or something, it kind of work, I guess. But you're
well, see,
right.
you know that.
If you, of course,
you
like
know
you
that
actually
the
work
other
on
composers
it.
that I've recently worked with, they're right in that middle, that middle,
Yeah,
section of the piano.
exactly.
I'm
Middle
like, okay, notch it out, and all.
Like the
all
worst
of that.
thing is like you put like a clarinet, for example, exactly like a solo clarinet in the middle of a dialogue. It just take you out of it. Like it's just insane.
Yeah.
And,
Why? I mean, phonically, why?
like, it's the same, it's the
Same
same frequency.
frequencies.
If you have like a dialogue is like one person talking to another one.
Yeah.
Right? They never talk to each other at the same time.
Right.
So why would you put like another voice at the same
That's
time?
a good point.
It's like-
That's a good point.
That's a great point.
That's a really good point. I
first,
call Sasha's music like the unspoken character in the scene.
The
There's very
first
much.
time we worked together, it was a very small film. And I had another composer that I had started working with before Sacha because I didn't know him at the time. And she just wasn't getting it. But it was my fault, really, because I was a first-time director, and I wasn't sure either what I wanted, for this score. And I thought I wanted, like, kind of like guitar and, like...
Did you guys temp it out when you were doing your cut, or?
No, I mean, we had some... We didn't have any kind of temp or anything.
Okay.
I mean, we had some, but not a lot. And so I was trying to figure it out with myself. And I love giving opportunities to people because people have given me opportunities over the years.
That's great.
So, in Breaking and Exiting, my first film, I had other actors that were more established that liked the script, but I went with Milo Gibson, who is Mel Gibson's son, but he had only done a few smaller roles in films, and he hadn't done a lead yet. But I was like, you know what? I like the idea of giving him his first lead, and I think he's charismatic, and I think he can handle it. And he really did a fantastic job. I was really impressed by him. But he was new, and I'm still trying to figure out the score thing. I never had to deal with score as an actor, So I hired somebody who was just out of school. You know what I mean? I thought I'll give her an opportunity here. And it really wasn't her fault, but it just wasn't clicking. Like she was coming up with stuff and it wasn't working. And then I was like, I couldn't speak music because I didn't know the language of music. So I have it in my head, and I'm like, how do I explain this to her? I can't, because it's not a language I could
I also
that's great.
I'm a first-time director too, so I went through that experience as well. And I had always described the emotion that I wanted to feel, not necessarily the
sound,
the technical side of the score.
And I was doing that, but she wasn't lining up. Like her idea of emotional stuff
was different than yours.
Different than my emotional. So I unfortunately had to let her go, and it was devastating because you don't want to hire somebody and let her go. But then, you know, Sacha, we found Sacha, and Sacha just I love Sacha because he can read my mind. Like literally, like if I have, we have a really good rapport, and like. But Sacha also comes from the school of like, you know, I like to think of him as like the Star Wars kind of like big, and he can like rock out like.
Once you bring Star Wars into the conversation, that's trouble, man.
But it's like, you know, it's like ginormous. Like when you think of like, he could do such a great job with all the big, you know, empirical like stuff. And this was a very small little thing. So he would have the tone of it, you know what I mean? I'd be like, this is the emotion, and he'd have it, and it was great. But he'd have like 17 instruments, and I'd be like, this is epic and beautiful. But it, you know, it's a little.
But she's only washing dishes.
Can you scale it back a little bit?
But I'll tell you what, let's start with one instrument at a time. And literally we get to like instrument 3, and I'd be like, that's it. Yeah. Beautiful. And that's why it was so great. Like, remember we would work together, I'd be like, wouldn't have to change the musical melody at all. It was just kind of scaling it down, because he was so used to like big and beautiful.
Well, I think as a musician you do that anyway, though. I mean, as a drummer playing, you're throwing all of it out, and then you just start eliminating it. You just start eliminating it
to the sink, and I'm not mad at it either, because then I have so many options that it's like, for me as a director, I'm like, this is great. Now I have like, before I had like no options. Now I had you know, more than I could.
Well, you know, music is a sculpture. So you have like this big rock. So you build this big rock, and then you just sculpt with like the director is actually sculpting it with you. Like, and if you have a great relationship as we have, we just know exactly what kind of, you know, music and going on with the picture. And
I think that's true. Like finding the right collaborator is key.
Absolutely.
You're so lucky that you guys found each other, and that's great.
Absolutely. That's
I really hope we get to do everything. When you find the right team, you just want to
stay with that.
Well, I'll tell
There's
you,
a comfort level there.
Selfishly, that's why I assembled this group of people today. Is I hope that at some level, at some point, there is a bridge that we can all cross and walk and make a movie together at some point.
That would be wonderful. Cool. Except for this guy. I mean, this guy coming in right now. Do not.
There's so much trouble about to show up.
The party has now started. Winther has arrived.
Good, man.
Welcome back. Hurry up, get in here. We just dealt you in. You got pocket aces.
Came from the airport.
Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Winther.
Tired,
just flew in.
Look how cheesy he is. I wash my hands. Don't worry.
Oh, you're fitting right in.
1, 2, 3, 4.
He holds the keys to all the answers. Keep it going. We play this cheesy game all the time.
So, going back to one thing, that is an interesting skill. I think that has to be part of your repertoire. What you said about Sacha, being able to actually, you don't know that much about music, and being able to say, "Hey, this is what I want," and him knowing a lot about music, saying, "Okay, he can hear your language," and that's incredible.
Super important.
It's
to have
really
a shorthand,
really important.
even like with your composer or your DP, to have that shorthand, especially the DP, because you only got a certain amount of hours that you can film, because you're either like trying to you're shooting all night and the sun's coming up, or you're shooting all day and the sun's going down. So it's like you're constantly fighting like elements. So to have a DP that you're like, hey, I like this, and this, and they know exactly what you mean. Then it saves time because you have to sit there and explain anything. Minutes count. Every minute counts when you're shooting.
And it also even happens in the color suite as well. I mean, you have to understand the language of the creative. It's like, and be in sync with that person.
Yeah.
And and that's what really helps is always collaborating with the people again and again and again, because you know what that person wants when they say, I want more this. And they're not talking about levels of light or specific colors. They're speaking emotion.
Yeah.
Well, like crunchy could mean anything. That can mean anything.
Right. Exactly.
But when you work with directors, you work with 5 directors, each crunchy means something different to them.
Right,
and you know what it is.
You know exactly where it's too much or where it's not enough. And that goes back to what you were saying as far as composing goes. It's always good as far as the colors goes is to go beyond, go too far, and then come back.
And then be able to scale.
Yeah,
I like to do that too when I'm doing the mix. Is I'll do a pass, get the dialogue to play basically where it's supposed to, and then I'll do a music pass and I'll ride the music a little heavy.
Right.
And then I'll kind of listen to it again and see like the moments where the key parts of the story aren't coming through.
Right.
And then basically what I do is I take that whole chunk, that whole piece of music, and I'll grab the whole thing and I'll drop it down like 5 dB. Right. And then all of a sudden it's in the sweet spot and it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, and you forget about the music and you're listening to the dialogue.
It's all about that sweet spot. You're realizing the range of the element that you're working with, basically.
Right.
And it's so important to have those people you trust, because like when I work with Michael and he said it and I'll be like, bring it down 2 dBs. All right, now bring it up 2 dBs. Okay, now it's perfect.
This is a true story, ladies and gentlemen.
It's literally like, after a while, I can't tell anymore.
And how does he? That's amazing.
Like when I'm watching color or I'm listening to, it's like you're in a dark room for hours and hours and hours. And even editing, I'll be in a dark room for like 16 hours and you think like, oh my God, this was amazing. And then I'll go home, I'll go to sleep, I'll wake up and watch it, and I'll go, what was I thinking?
Yes. That happens
scrap
all the
everything
time.
that I did. They're like in this black box of like nothingness.
Right.
But you have to trust the people that are sitting to your right and left, because they're the people that are like, no, you were right the first time.
Yeah.
We were right the first time.
Yeah.
Well,
It's always good to try it, though.
Sorry, I want to bring Peter into this world here.
get up on that mic, Peter.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Peter Winther over there. He just flew in from
Pete and repeat on the turntable.
Peter just flew in from San Francisco, so thanks for coming in right off the plane, man. Appreciate it. And so basically, let's just jump right in. Peter's a director, producer, actor as well, right?
No,
you never.
definitely not.
That's the other Peter.
Oh, that's only
Peter.
this Peter alone.
Yeah.
Tell us what it's like to corral a group of people to make a movie. Like Michael's a colorist. Sacha, as you know, is a composer. We have an actor.
Yes.
We have an editor.
Yeah.
We have a sound guy. Yeah. Right. As a producer, how in the world do you manage to put all of that shit together? Like where do you start?
Well, we'll start with, what does a producer do? Because so many people say to me like, what does a producer do? Because there's so many different types of producers too.
Yeah.
Well, the producing things change, right? Because now you see on these movies 17 to 30 producers
Yeah, it's
on
true.
things, and most of them aren't producers anymore. Like most of them are financiers who bring in the money and they get a producer credit.
I see.
Or they're studio executives.
Is that part of their
now
thing? Is
take
they're
producing
investing and
credits.
so they get that producer credit? Yeah, I got you.
And as a producer,
Gladly.
you're like, hey, if you're giving me $500,000, you'll get a co-executive producer credit.
Right.
And that means something
Yeah.
to them. And for us, it's a free thing to give away. So why not?
Yeah, right.
I'd rather
I got a
go
whole
big.
bag full of these.
I'll call you whatever you want.
Whatever the hell you want.
Whatever you want to be called.
Supreme ruler, whatever.
Supreme ruler.
If you bring your wizard.
Peter Winther, ladies and gentlemen.
But I mean, and to be honest, I'd rather give that to them than I'm not a big fan of studio executives taking producer credits, because they're doing a studio executive job. But
Right.
again, they're the studio, so who are you to
Yeah.
say?
Yeah.
Right.
And then also a lot of managers start taking producing credits.
And then the
As
actors
well.
start taking producer
And
credits.
then a lot of the actors do it, but that again is a value thing.
I don't
because-
do it. I don't. I've
you
been
haven't-
offered
Yeah.
like actor, like, oh, we'll give you a producer credit. I'm like, I'm not producing it. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna-
Yeah.
If I produce
Because
it,
you
I
actually
will
know what
give,
the fuck is going on with that,
He does,
right?
and
I mean,
also he has value. So like when you put his name on a project, that gets you something,
Right.
right? So whereas some of these other, like no offense to any managers out there, but putting a manager's name on as a producer credit doesn't get me anywhere.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's just
But they
like,
just want it because they want to build their.
Sure.
they want to build their thing, and studio
their-
executives, I get why they want to do it, because every 5 years they get fired,
Right.
and then they have to go to a producer deal,
Yeah.
and now they have
They have a
credits
list of credits.
saying
Right.
that they've produced something, right? So,
But
so
the,
there's
the
that,
actor
there's
thing
that
is
realm
funny
of
to me though,
producers.
because that's like when actors are like, we'll give you a producer credit as an actor, and some actors will take them too, because they're like, they'll have producer credits, but they don't do anything.
Sure.
Right.
They're not really getting
No,
anything.
there's no money involved.
So-
It's just a credit. That's
It's
all
just
it
a
is.
credit, so
Right.
they can be like, I was a producer on that, and I acted in it, and you're like, but you didn't really produce it.
Right.
So it was a funny story. I was directing something, and I didn't take it. They said, we'll give you a producer credit. I was like, I don't want a producer credit. I honestly don't want to produce it. I ended up producing it, but I didn't want to. But I said, yeah, all right, I don't want the producer credit. So they gave some of the actors producer credits on this film. And one of the actors came up and was complaining about something. I said, well, you're the producer.
So there.
So, I mean, you can go fix it.
Right,
I'm
right.
just a director, man.
Yeah. Right.
So back to what it
yeah,
is.
So
Yeah.
let's circle back to what the hell
it
you
really
do.
is, in my mind, and what I aspire to, is it starts with finding a great idea and developing that into a great script.
Yeah.
You know, and then once you get that, which is the most important thing of everything, is get a good script. Because as you know, especially in the last couple years, we've seen movies that start with a great script. Like Peter just had a movie that had a great script, had a lot of production complications, but at the end of the day, it turns out to be a great movie because it was well directed and well acted and a great script.
Yep.
So all the other shit that conspires against you,
Yeah.
you can win the day
Right.
if you have a great script. You know.
Right.
So that's the main thing. And then after that, it's about attracting the creative talent. So whether it's a name director or cast, because those things, you need those things nowadays to get the money.
Sure.
You gotta have value brought to
Right.
it.
So what you're saying is, for the people that are listening, you have a script that you now are backing.
Yeah.
Right. And so then you take that script, because it's good, has value, and you approach talent, whether it's a director or
Well, there's two ways you go. If you're going to go a studio route, you would just take the script to the studio.
I see.
Right?
I see.
And then I don't need any cast because the studio's got the money.
Right.
Right? And if you have a strong enough idea, you can take it to them. The only problem for you as a producer that way is you're inviting a lot more cooks into the kitchen.
Sure.
And so you get way more financial freedom, but you get way less creative freedom.
one or the other.
So, but certain films only a studio can do. Like you're not taking Independence Day. You're not doing that independently.
Right. Which you produced, by the way.
I did produce that.
It is called Independence Day.
Yeah.
The irony.
Confused.
But nowadays, but also nowadays, like speaking of that director, Rowan Emmerich just did Midway independently.
Right.
But because he was tired of all the cooks, you know.
Yeah,
So, but if you're going to go independently, then you have to go after the talent, and people have value, and it's a messed up system. But so then you have to go to a sales agent. And you have to say, okay, how much value does Peter Facinelli have,
Right.
or Brad Pitt have, or Margot Robbie have, or this director, and then you kind of have to back into a number. So if they say that value is $4 million, then in order to really attract investors, and that's like the worst case scenario. That's like if you make the Telemundo soap opera version of this film, like the worst, right? So that value is now $4 million. So nowadays, you kind of have to try to make it for as close to that number
Or
as
under.
you can, or even under.
Usually, they're like, make it under because
because they want to know guaranteed they're
that
going
they're
to
going
get
to get their money back.
Right.
which is different than it used to be, because in the past it would be that worst case scenario number, $4 million, and then they would give you the benefit of the doubt that because you have a certain track record with these certain people, you can make it for like 5.5 or 6. But because there's been so many shady producers out there, or producers that don't know what they're doing and are just lying to investors. Investors are usually smart people. That's why they have money. So they've learned, like, I'm not going to do that. Like,
because what they would do is they would say, okay, so it's worth 4, we'll give you 5 to 5.5, and then the directors or the producers would make a shitty movie, and then they would take that extra $1.5 million and put it in their pocket. And then you're left with a really crappy movie that lost $1.5 million.
Yeah,
right.
And then the director gets blamed for a shitty movie,
Right.
and it wasn't his fault. Like the fact that it has a beginning and middle and end, and it's in color was a miracle, right? It's like,
Because they gave them like a fishing rod and a stick to go make the movie.
Stick.
yeah.
Right.
So anyways, so then you get to that point, and then you put all that stuff together, you get the money, and then, you know, because there's a lot of producers out there that know how to get a movie made, meaning how to put that stuff together, but they don't know how to make it then after that.
Yeah.
So then they have to bring on another producer, line producer type people to actually make the movie because they don't know how to make it. So what I feel like I do know how to make it because I kind of grew up on set. I learned that part first. And so I can be on set. I know how to make the film and know how to put the people together and how to hire the crew and team up the right types of people. Like the key people are always going to be on set with the director. You got to give them a first AD who knows what's up and a great DP. That's like the power trio on set.
Absolutely.
And that's someone that's got to jive with your director, you know?
Right. Listeners, AD is assistant director and DP is director of photography.
Right, sorry.
That's okay.
And then everything kind of flows off of that, you know? And then once you get through that, again, I was lucky enough at the very beginning of my career. I worked as an assistant to first Leonard Nimoy.
Oh wow!
And then Roland Emmerich.
Okay.
I didn't know about the Leonard Nimoy.
Oh yeah, it was We're No Angels was like the first movie I worked on, and right out of college. Shot for 2 weeks in Boston. I was graduating from BU. And after I realized I wasn't going to be an NHL hockey player, I was like, what am I going to do? What? And so this movie came into town. It was based off a book by Sue Miller, who was one of my professors. So I got a job as a PA, and then Leonard really liked me because he could not walk anywhere around Boston without getting swarmed by Trekkies. Diane Keaton and Liam Neeson, no problem. Liam was not really anybody yet, but Diane was pretty big, but they didn't she wasn't a rock star like Spock was. Yeah. You know, so I was the only guy PA, and so I was like basically his bodyguard, like moving people out of the way, you know. And
he grew to like you for that.
Yeah. He did. Care of him. And then he's like, you got to come up to Toronto where they're shooting the rest of the film, and I have dual citizenship. So I had to tell my parents, like, hey, I may not be at my own graduation, but I got a job. And they were like, go, take the job.
Way to go, son.
We don't care.
Go north, young man.
Yeah. So, but when you work for a director, what's the best thing about it for anybody that's trying to get into the business? It's a great job because you learn the entire process, right? You learn from all the things we've just been talking about, from the development of the script to putting it all together, through the shooting of it, and then into all the stuff that you guys do, where in reality the movie is truly made, you know, is it actually in post-production where the film, basically when you're shooting a film, it's like doing
that's where the
research
money's
for
at too,
right? They say that
we make a ton of money.
They say there's 3 movies, right? The movie that you write, the movie that you shoot,
I've recently heard
and then the movie that you edit.
Yep.
And the movie that you edit is like the most important because the post, it makes or breaks the movie, you know?
Because things just change, right? Like, because that first draft of that script that you made, then when you get on set, when you're working with the actors, like a new idea comes and like, oh, that's not working. We have to shift that way. And then in the editing suite, maybe something's not working or the movie's too long, so you got to lift a sequence out.
It's a very fluid process throughout.
And so you're constantly discovering.
And then let me ask you this: Does your function as a producer, does it change going from a blockbuster like Independence Day or Stargate or something like that down to something independent, low budget?
No,
is it the same thing? You're just dealing with a dollar figure change.
Yeah, it's just ratio, man. It's a scale.
Right.
That's it. I mean, certainly you're dealing with more elements on some of the bigger films, but you never have enough money, you never have enough time, right? So it just doesn't matter. Like, you know, same on like
it's all relative.
Thing on Twilight, you're constantly struggling against the budget.
People would say like, what's the difference between indie filmmaking and like studio filmmaking? And I would just say there's more people around on set. You know? Instead of like 70 or
better
80
cake craft
people.
services.
Yeah, but if you have like 100 and you have 200
bring your own
people
water.
instead of 70, more money, more people.
Yeah.
But you're doing the same thing. I mean, you're not. People are like, well, do you act differently for television and for I'm like, no.
That's a good point.
You never. It's a different. You're watching on a different medium, but the acting is the same. The direction is the same. You just have more money or less.
I have
money
a friend of
to make
mine
movie.
who's a well-known musician. He's a B3 player, keyboard player, and we've talked recently. And he says, "Mike, I don't have a $50 performance. Whatever we can do, whatever we can, work out for the financial exchange, I'm cool with." Because you're going to get whatever I do. I don't have a $50 performance or a $5,000 performance.
Right.
I might actually have a little bit of guilt.
Yeah.
If I don't perform very well and you pay me $5,000, I'm going to go, you know what? Let me try that one more time.
Yeah.
But for the $50 performance, it's the same.
It's the same.
It's the same exact. Yeah, exactly.
I liken it to plumbing. I'm like, a plumber fixes a sink and a plumber fixes a bathtub. He's still a plumber.
Yeah,
It's like,
right.
He's not a different plumber for
Right.
you're just doing same
And there's
thing.
there's also just, especially I find with like crew people, there's just a pride in their work, and then, but I mean that in both post and production. So like I just did a film and we shot in LA, very low budget, but we had like a lot of the Captain Marvel crew because we were shooting in LA, and we had the camera guys from this TV show Lucifer, and we're paying them way less than what they're getting paid normally. But it was a cool story, and for the people out there, like we never get to shoot in LA, because you're always following the money and the tax credits and stuff like that. So just the idea that they could shoot
Go home at night.
go see their kids'
attractive,
plays
yeah.
and their sporting events and stuff like
that's
that.
great.
And so we were able to. We took advantage of that.
Sure.
And, but it doesn't matter again how much we paid them. Like when they commit to it.
You're getting all of them.
Yeah, you get all of it. You
Yeah.
get all of it. So you have to be respectful of that and not take advantage of it and like shoot.
I mean, I think we
14-hour days.
all love our jobs, and
Yeah.
so
Right.
to half-ass it doesn't make any sense.
That's right.
That's
right.
It is funny how you say the money is in post, because I shot the first movie I ever shot was the whole budget was $100,000, like under $100,000. It was a small miracle that we got it together, but I mean, we were able to do it because we pulled a lot of favors. If we budgeted it out, it probably would have been like $500,000 or $600,000, but a lot of people did favors. But we had $50,000 to shoot the film, like production wise, and we put 40 into post. So it was almost as much as the production.
That's great. That hardly ever happens.
But honestly, like
It's usually
that's why
Yeah.
the film worked, was because we put so much money into the post, because it looks like $1 million movie.
Yeah.
And had you go cheap and the color's bad and the sound is bad and
Killed
people don't see it, but they feel it. You know what I mean? And I mean, you definitely see it because the color, and you could tell the sound. But it's all about the bells and whistles. It's like, it's almost, I liken it to like building a house, right? So it's like the architectural plans are the script. And then when you go out and you shoot, it's like you're collecting all the material. And then when you go into post, you're actually building the house.
Right.
That's when you
analogy.
build it.
and
That's
it's
nice.
what they call it's what they call adding production value to the project.
That's nice.
Yeah.
It's not always simple, but you can usually make a movie sound and look a lot more expensive than what it was originally budgeted for.
Especially today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's
that's what we
available
did. That's what happened
for
on that
very
film.
little money,
It
yeah.
looked really great. I was really proud of that.
I want to actually bring up something that's very much a part of my daily situation is damage control. And where and how do each of you, like if you have not enough coverage for a scene, like what do you do?
That never happens.
What do you do to get by that? You know what I mean? And Peter, same thing for you. What if the person you're acting across from is sucking balls, and you're just like you're like,
What kind of film are you making?
all right, let me back up. The person you're acting across is not pulling their weight,
Right.
Yeah.
right?
and
Sasha,
get specific.
Yeah.
On that one. Like we want names.
yeah, please names, and also Sasha, like, do you feel like when you're composing, if there's a bad scene, like how do you get creative, like shutdown, or do you not notice that the scene sucks? You know, what does that do, Michael? like.
Are you guys going to remember all this? By the
Yeah,
way?
well, we're gonna go around. 'Cause we're gonna talk.
right.
Like something happened during the shoot, and you're trying to undo what's been done.
Damage control.
Yeah.
You know. So, Brett, damage control in the edit bay. Go.
In regards to not having enough coverage,
Whatever it is, performances, like a bad performance, like minimizing or making a performance.
well, it's interesting too because the relationship with the producers and the directors with the actors can taint the way they respond to the movie because they don't like the actor for some reason.
Right.
So they're like, always cut around this person or whatever.
I see.
But in terms of a weak performance, there's lots of little tricks and things you can do. There's usually one take that is the take, and then you build from that. But and it just depends, what the story is and
Yeah.
who's supporting the other characters. And,
Right.
Yeah, there's lots involved. So.
Right.
A lot of it is you cut to the other actor, right?
Yeah.
And play their dialogue on the other actor's face.
You do, as long as the reaction's working,
Yeah,
and you're like,
exactly.
oh, that
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
so much sense.
Or if you have like an insert of something, you can always go to like some kind of insert or something. Cutaway. Cutaway is like the
Yeah.
big thing. Is like just cut away from them.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So,
what-
little inserts are always good to
Yeah.
shoot, just in case you
Yeah.
need.
And how do
those.
you get those? Is that like B-roll, second unit stuff? What?
Well, sometimes there's pickups after the principal photography is done, but oftentimes it depends if you have two cameras on set. That's the second camera can be picking up.
They'll be
on-
roaming for stuff like hand gestures.
I see.
Yeah, just interesting coverage, which I
Yeah,
do.
if you're a director out there, like it's super important to like get like pieces.
Shoot tons of
just
footage.
keep
Yeah.
shooting. If you have a second camera, like go for hand gestures. You go for hands, like shoot birds up in the fucking sky,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
just
yeah,
shoot
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So if you ever get in a hole, you have something to cut away
Right.
to.
Because you don't want to just cut faces to faces,
Sure.
right? So you need, if someone's like on the computer, the hands on the keyboard,
Yeah.
if
Makes
someone's
sense.
turning on something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You can cut to that because it can get you around stuff, you know? So you have
That
to.
actually that very thing I notice a lot. And if you go back to what we were talking about, is watching the movie without sound, is you'll actually be able to start making notes on my sound notes. Like,
Yep.
okay, I need to create this because they're walking down the hallway, quietly sneaking into a forbidden room, and she pulls the curtain aside, and you're
Then
like,
what
It
happens?
adds to that suspense. Yeah,
I'm not telling you have to see it, but it's creating that
that suspense.
that
yeah.
suspense, right? So
Sound is so important for
So
any of those
important.
moments.
It's half the movie.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
really is.
absolutely.
so Peter, a poor co-performer.
I gotta tell you, it's rough when you're acting somebody that just does not. But you know that it's not. There's nothing you can do. You know what I mean? So it's really up to the director because you can't go up to the other actor and be like, "Look, you're, sucking right now."
I don't think they're trying to suck. They just
Yeah.
might not.
And I don't think that
So-
it goes to tries to suck.
A lot of times, like you're as off camera, you're trying to like give them things to like make them better. You know what I mean?
right.
A good actor for me is somebody that really is in the scene, but somebody who gives to the other actor too. Like I always try to give as much when I'm off camera than when I'm on camera. And what I mean for people who don't know what off camera is, when you're shooting scenes, like it might be all on Michael right now, and I'm off camera saying my lines. And then they'll turn around and they'll do all of my coverage, right?
Right.
So when I'm off camera, you're, trying really hard to give them something to react to.
Right, right.
But honestly, there's only so much you can do in your performance. It's really the director's job to shape their performance or to give them notes, because I can't give them notes. It's disrespectful for one actor to give another, although
Sure.
some
Some
actors
do.
do.
It does happen.
Yeah.
It does happen.
Right.
But and what I do is just look over to the director and see them sweating, and then they'll come in and start talking to them, and then they'll go back and they'll work with them. And so, for me as an actor, just really, I could only focus on what I'm doing, and then on the other side, try to give
Nice.
as much as I can.
Cool.
And then as when you're directing, it's like, man, you're doing damage control all day long. It's like you got to have a plan A, a plan B, and then literally like when plan A and plan B go south, you're just like things are just coming to you, to like
You're ad-libbing as
just
you go.
just going with
Yeah.
the flow. And
Yeah.
and a lot of times it's amazing because in those moments, you're kind of in a flow state where things are just coming to you, which you didn't even know that you knew. You know what I mean? Like I remember doing one scene where we're so far behind, and I had to do this insert of this dog on the left side of the RV, in the RV on the left side on the couch, and I also had to do an insert of the dog on the other side of the couch, So I had him petting his hands on one side, and we're like, to turn around and to relight the other side was going to take like 30 minutes for an insert. Right. And then you have the AD going, do you really need that? And I'm like, yeah, I do need that. It's important. Because I need to cut something to cut to there. So I'm like, shit, what am I going to do? Yeah. And then literally I was like, I went to the DP and I was like, hey, what would happen if you just reverse flip the image inside the camera?
Flop shot.
and then he was like, I don't know. I was like, well, let's try that. And literally like he just reversed the image in camera and it looked like exactly like the other side of the couch. Wow. I was like, let's do that, and then I don't have to light the other side of the couch. But literally, I didn't know, and he didn't know if it would work, and I didn't know. And it's just like literally that, just like God just sent me that, and was like, try that. Right.
There's angels floating around.
Yeah,
telling
they're
us
always
things all
floating,
the time.
whispering things in your ear if you listen. Yeah. And you're just like, go with it, do it.
That's great. Cool.
And I was like, thank God that worked, because I didn't have time to shoot the other side of the couch.
The sun was going down, as we say, burning daylight. Sacha, how do you save scenes?
Well, like music can definitely shape some performances.
100%.
Like really, and if you put like a funny music on an actor, he will be funny even though he is talking about the death or something. Like it's, Did
you ever see when they do those recuts of like The Shining and then they put like funny music behind it? And it's like all of a sudden it turns it into a comedy. That's how powerful music is.
Wow. Actually, it's
fake
look
trailers.
it up on YouTube.
Okay.
They'll do fake
awesome.
trailers and take like comedies and make them into like horror films.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just by changing the music.
Yeah. And
I'm sorry.
Look at Jurassic Park. Take off like the sound and the music.
Yeah.
I mean, the T-Rex are not the best actors, so it's like they need some support, and the music helps a lot, for giving them, like this.
That's a good way of putting it.
Horror, creators.
I mean, the shark in Jaws is not that. If you look
it's
at
that
it,
theme
it's
song.
But that music.
It's that music. That's what you remember.
Yeah.
But if you actually look at the Jaws shark, it's not that great because it was a big mechanical shark that didn't work half the time.
I was just going to, or more than half the time. It was.
So Spielberg, what I read was he purposefully tried to not shoot the shark and just created the music so that you had the suspense of what is it, and then you have that fin, so you're like, you don't know what it looks like, and every once in a while you'll see it. So
and forever,
you have to use it less.
Forever and ever, even in a fucking pool.
Yeah.
Somebody's got a fin. And you hear that song in the back,
right.
man. I mean, that's how powerful music is.
The best suspense in horror movies is what you don't see.
What you don't see. And I was always saying, like, Jaws has been an example. Like, whenever you're making a monster movie, you go to Jaws. And now Spielberg did it out of necessity. Because the shark didn't work. But that, for storytelling, even if the shark was working, was still the better way to go, right? Because what you're saying is, that Jaws and Alien for me are like the greatest horror films because
so true.
Every time you see the monster, you're learning something new each time.
Right.
You're seeing like an Alien, like it's got acid, blood, and then and at first it pops out of the stomach and it's this big.
Scares the shit out of you.
Scares the shit out of you. You didn't eat spaghetti for a while after that. And then every time you saw the alien, you learned like you had the face hugger aspect of it. You kept learning. It's the same with the shark.
Yeah.
Like you saw the fin, and then the scene where they shoot it with the barrel, and then it takes the barrel down. And then they finally get it to 3 barrels, and it takes all 3 barrels down, and you never really see the shark really
It's the suspense
until the end when they blow
your
it
imagination
up.
filling in.
You got to show them just enough, and always something a little bit more.
I see.
Than before, because if you don't show them anything at all, then you lose them.
Right.
But yeah, Jaws is, and it was all because that shark didn't work.
That's the angels whispering.
That's exactly it.
Sometimes God's intervening. Universe is intervening, kind of like helping you.
Yeah, calling the audible on the fly.
But the score on that, I mean, John Williams' score on that is like, like you said, Mike. I mean, it's in your head.
Yeah.
Even performances, though, I remember someone saying it's not. always the lines that you remember. It's the thing the actor does. You remember when the actor did the thing with the hands, the hand gesture. You remember lines a lot, but it's a lot of times when you think of movies or actors, it's this thing that they did. This
man, that just
hand gesture
that just triggered a memory. What does anybody remember the name of the movie?
Footloose.
That's good.
Start naming movies.
At the very end of the movie, the hero is a boxer. He smiles and his lip splits. Does that ring a bell for anybody?
big man and little.
I've seen it in MMA though.
Oh, me too. I've had it happen to me. Thank you. But that's something that happened
stays with
on
you.
that I can't remember. It was not important.
An
Michael,
image.
talk to me about saving your footage.
Sometimes it really, like what all you guys were saying, it drives the creative in you to push, to challenge. If you come up on a shot that really just, something happened, and unfortunately it's the only shot that works in that cut, and they need to use it. You need to craft to that. It's like, okay, I can't change this. So let's work around that. Let's create something that works with that shot for the rest of the scene. You match that shot to you basically match the scene to that shot. And you also bring in as much creative tools as you can to help that shot. If it means, working with the tools that you have to relight it, then you do that.
Yeah.
And you get creative. You just use what you have.
Digital tools that are available now are amazing.
The power windows and stuff.
Oh my God.
Power windows is amazing.
Yeah.
You can literally brighten stuff up and take stuff down.
A lot of times, a colorist is a gaffer. They're flagging shots off. They're shaping the light in post production, not as eloquently as what they do during the shoot, but it's doable.
And it can save shots.
Absolutely.
For sure.
If you have a scene of two actors talking in front of a blank wall, nothing's more boring than that. But if you throw some shapes on there digitally, you can make it more dramatic.
Right.
You just be as creative as you possibly can. I'm sure that's happened to you, Kreppel. I mean, you use the tools that you have. You don't cry that, oh my God, I can't work with this.
Well, isn't that the creative process? Isn't that the fun of it, kind of?
Absolutely.
I mean, you want everything to go smoothly, obviously.
Fun.
That gets boring. I mean, it's always nice to
pointing.
See this gray?
Exactly. That's the aging process. But
it's always nice to work with great material.
Yeah.
But sometimes that can get not necessarily boring, but it kind of.
Well, what can be fun is when you find a solution because you're forced.
Yeah.
I mean, the one story I have is I was working on a skateboard movie way back for DC Shoes, and it was all shot on 16 millimeter. It was beautifully shot. There was one scene, or it was one shot that the director needed to use, but the film was damaged in a way that kind of gave it a really cool look.
Right?
It's like, let's go with that.
Yeah.
And that was kind of before the days of really heavy creative artistry and color grading, where things weren't just white balanced, where you made the blacks black and the whites white. We went with that, and to this day, that director and I still talk about that shot.
Oh, nice.
That's when I said when God kind of like you're praying for those little mistakes,
Yeah.
or that was a mistake that just kind of fell in your lap, and instead of crying about it, you just go, let's use it. You know what I mean? The angels whispering in your ears going, do it.
A lot of DPs will have war stories like that. It's like they'll be asked, how did you create that shot? It's like, it was a mistake.
Think about this. How are diamonds made? Right? Under pressure.
Yeah,
right. And
right.
some of the best stuff happens honestly under pressure.
Yeah.
You don't love it when you're under that pressure because you're just like, God, I just want a day that just goes smooth. Can I just have a day that just like literally you wake up, everything's going right, and then you go to bed. That's great. But when you're filmmaking, it never happens that way.
Right.
There's always something that happens that like creates that pressure that forces
that's
you.
why it takes a certain type of person to be in this industry because
crazy.
you just
Insane.
passionate
Flexible,
about
yeah.
the art
Passionate.
form.
Right.
I'll go
You
with
have to be.
passionate.
You have to be
that's
true. You have to be truly be in love with what you do.
Yeah, because you go through way too much shit
Yeah.
to say, it was worth it. Like,
Yeah.
So.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think there's always something that there's always an obstacle? I mean, it's
There's
just
so many
life,
moving
right?
parts, I
I
think.
mean,
Well, that's life.
in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just such an interesting. As humans, it's an interesting thing that we go through that stuff. I mean, I think it stretches the boundaries of who we are.
Well,
It's crucial.
yeah.
Okay,
But it happens a lot, so it's obvious that
here's
we
an
need
example. Who here has seen the Pixar movie WALL-E?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All the people on that cruise ship got fat and lethargic from doing nothing, from
Yeah.
having the easiest
Yeah.
life
Yeah, yeah.
and no challenges.
Yeah.
But when they landed on Earth and it was a shithole,
Yeah.
they said, yes, a
got something
challenge.
to do.
Yeah,
Challenge.
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, why do people climb mountains, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a challenge.
Yeah.
The challenge.
Yeah, I one thing that I've had that I actually Michael I haven't worked with yet, but
Well, then how do you know him?
Yeah.
family friends. I have played music with his prodigy son Joseph,
Nice.
and his son Joseph is an incredible jazz drummer.
Okay, yeah, I thought you looked familiar because I went to the gig that was at the Whiskey where your son played.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Also,
For
your
Michael,
son is
that
a
was a-
drummer.
yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah,
That was a fun
That's
show.
how I know.
Oh,
Yeah.
Pretty
But
good.
He's
we have
super good.
we have worked with the same directors.
This is true.
Yeah.
We have worked with the same director. What I want to say though about the damage control is when it gets to the last phase of where I come in when I'm doing the final mix, the group effort that it takes on all levels, like, okay, the composer's in the room, the director's in the room, the producer's in the room, the editor's in the room, and now you've got children calling on the phone saying, "Daddy, can you come pick me up after school today?" It's like all of these things, these forces
Elements.
of outside life that come in to either help or it totally takes the day away. And you go, you know what, you guys, I got to take off and I got to go pick up my dog at the kennel and, whatever it is. But there's always somebody somehow picking up that where somebody had to take out or leave.
Team effort.
It's
Right.
a team.
It's a team.
Right.
Thank you for finishing my
Yeah,
sentence,
no.
partner.
That's why you're partner.
It's the team effort all the way.
We finish each other's sandwiches.
Well, if you're not going to be here,
Yeah, and so when I worked with Brett on his movie, The Stand at Paxton County, we had a really nice understanding, and we worked really well together. And really, it came down to Brett had a lot of trust in me,
Yeah.
and I like that, because I want to make his movie the best that it can be. When I worked with Peter,
Well, you want to, when you see people are talented, why do you want to hold that back? Let them do their thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
right. Speaking of the tools that are available today, the things that we can do now to denoise dialogue.
it's crazy.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
absolutely bizarre. We went
And
from
picture,
years ago
yeah.
having 300, 400 lines of ADR to now 70 maybe,
Yeah.
and it's 50 of them are ads from, story ads and stuff. Like you want to fit this line in for this character
Well,
off camera
even
or whatever.
in The Stand, we had a scene inside the car, and we forgot to turn the air conditioner off, and it was loud.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, God, ADR this.
how do you notch that?
Oh, dude.
He
You
cleaned it
You
up.
put it in Isotope RX and go, and it's gone.
That's what I
And you're like,
suggested,
Wow.
and he's like, good answer.
Yeah. There's similar tools in the visual world as well, as far as denoising.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
so-
sure.
very cool.
There's just noise everywhere.
There is.
There really
It's
is.
all
Life is
sound.
full of noise. I want to ask you a question, Peter, about chemistry on set with fellow actors.
Yeah.
How obviously it's valuable. How valuable is it? Can you kind of
Oh, it's
underline
super
that?
important. I mean, it's either there or it's not. You can never force chemistry.
Interesting.
It's just, I don't even know how to define it. You know what I mean? There's an energy that when you're working with somebody, either you're clicking and like it's
Well,
there. Or
it's in this room
not.
right now. I mean, I
Right.
feel we're all
Yeah.
like the same
Yeah.
club.
It's true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's true.
exactly.
Yeah.
And actually, this brings me to a point because I know that you like this. How often do you get to go to set?
Yeah, Sasha.
Actually, I go to.
And sorry, let me. It's probably a 7-parter. Do you like to go on set? Do you pull from performances that you're watching while production is happening, right? And do you do anything unique, like go around and record sounds that you use in your that might be like if Peter was just in Oklahoma City, if you went there, would you record the bus station that they're shooting at? Like, how does that? Do you use stuff like that?
Yeah, I try to go on set as often as I can. I actually worked with both Peter and I've been to both of their set when they shot in LA. And so first of all, you want to sometimes to talk with the actors, because as Peter Facinelli said, like before, you know, like the actor has their own story, their own character. So if you want to write a theme for them, you want to talk to them as well, and it's super important. Like you're actually literally writing a melody for each character. So you have like the point of view of the director, you have a point of view of the actor, and being on set is amazing because you actually see the movie in 3D. Mm-hmm. You're inside the movie. You hear the sound. You know like the space, and sometimes I'm recording, you know, like from the set, like some sounds, and then I'm using it to make music. For Hour of Lead, we were in the wood in Griffith Park, and I recorded a lot of like wood sound and stuff, and nice. I did like the percussion out of it. Uh-huh. For Aftermath, with I actually recorded some sound in the house, like it was like some AC or some things, and many of the texture are actually going from that part. And you know, it's like so you have this.
Tell him about on breaking and exiting.
Yeah.
He created a whole sound using because the main character is a thief. He used a crowbar, right?
Yeah.
Like to create a sound out of a crowbar, just because.
Yeah, because it's like about thief.
It goes with the theme of a thief.
Okay. Like
I love that stuff. I love that.
So I went to Home Depot. And there was like this, you know, like you had like 10 or 15 different crowbar, and I was like trying each one of them, and like everybody was watching me like, why is he like listening to the sound of a crowbar, you know? Like picked up the one, you know.
Did you find the one?
I actually found the one. Yeah. I kept it. It sounds great, you know, and you know, all the like.
Do you have any crowbars that ring in a C note?
Really? Why not?
I literally like I brought like all the percussion like drumsticks and stuff, and trying to like play with the crowbar. Everybody was watching me, and like. I went there with my girlfriend. She left me because like, she was like
forever.
But not forever. Just like
I've had it with this guy.
That was the final straw.
Do your thing. I'm gonna see it. You know, like it's
forever.
That's great.
And it's absolutely great to be on set. I mean, and you know, and talking about the music, you know, music is space. You can create music is like I'm gonna give you like some psychoacoustic thing about music. So. When you think about a note, like if you put that on the left and on the right, that gives you like, you know, like the length.
Yeah.
If you put like reverb, that will get you profound sound. And if you get, you know, like a bassy sound, we think of like the bottom, and then a high sound would be, you know, the up. And so you can create like a space of 3D. So when you're on set, you actually can see exactly what space you were talking about.
Cool.
And the music you're creating with it should fit that.
Yeah.
So it's
awesome.
not like too big, too small. It should fit like the actual place. So, you know, I'm not every single day on set, but like it's always cool to have like some of the scenes creating it like in that space. And
that's
you know,
pretty
so
cool.
it's not often that the composer are going on set. And I
I've
would
never
very
heard
much
that. I love the idea.
it.
That's great.
I would advise every single composer to go on set. Like that's the actual.
We always like David Arnold always came to set.
Oh yeah, really.
But John Williams never did. Sure, so it works for him. But I think it is. I think it's a good thing, and I think also like with music, you can create in a what's visually a small moment. Like we have a moment in Aftermath like that where it's a small moment. We put like kind of epic music on there because it's a epic emotional moment for the character. Right. And the best example, it's actually the reason why we hired David Arnold way back in the day for Stargate, and then he did Independence Day. He did a movie called Young Americans, which Danny Cannon directed. And there's a scene where the lead kid, I can't remember his name, he's just coming back to this like crack house where he lives at. and a major event just happened. I don't want to ruin the movie for people, but major event just happened for him, and he's just coming back, and all he does is he walked into this flop house. People are like smoking and stuff like that, and he walks upstairs and he goes up to the roof and he smokes a cigarette. That's all that happens. But David's music is like this slow building epic,
cool.
and you don't, and it's just as he's going up the stairs, and you would think you would hear the bump 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 of the music going on in the house, but it's not. It's this like huge orchestra. It's what's going on in his head,
Right.
and it's building because he's coming to a decision where he, and the next scene he makes this big decision, and he goes up, and as he comes up to the rooftop, the music's swelling big, and the sun's coming up over London.
Well, now I
It's
gotta
a new
watch the
day.
movie.
Oh, you gotta watch it. We saw that. Like, we gotta get
what's
that
it
guy.
called?
It's called Young Americans. It's a terrific film. Harvey Keitel's in it, but it's like a London gangster movie, But and that was like kind of both Danny Cannon and David Arnold's calling card to the States. But yeah, so you can really you can change a lot with the music.
Sacha, have you done composing based on the script only?
I never done that. I think it's like in our modern time, it's the biggest mistake for me to do that. Before, like the score was like almost not like it was not fitting the picture that much, and that kind of very dated. But now you need to be inside the picture. You need to actually tell the story and do. And sometimes you do the actual opposite, like as you said, and that works also. But if you do from the script, like you don't see the colors, you don't see like the mood, and I'm gonna give you an example. You have two people talking in dialogue, and then you see one guy behind just walking, and I would actually use the tempo of his walking to do the music, so it won't be like a different tempo between the music and the guys that is walking behind.
Interesting.
And so that you cannot compose that from the
Can't do that
script.
on script.
Wow.
And so it's important that so you're not
Where did you get that idea? That's brilliant.
I mean, like that, just
Sasha's
working.
brilliant.
So cool.
He's really. I enjoy working with him so much. He's just an artistic genius.
I mean, I would never even have thought it. That's
were-
awesome.
We did this one scene in Our Lead where the character's daughter goes missing, and it's a pretty long scene. It's like 3 or 4 minutes long. 4 minutes is a long time in film, and I had to figure out like where does the music come in and where does it start. And he had done a pass and it didn't feel right, and then we talked about like what. I gave him a story about my daughter went missing once, and what that felt for me. And I was telling him this story, and you could see him kind of like taking it all in.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, let's try it again and just go with that. And this is what I'm, was feeling. And then he literally watched the scene and created the, right while he was watching, I just watched him create the music as he was watching the scene.
Wow.
And like literally was watching picture and composing at the same time, and it just was pouring out of him. It was pouring out of him. And when he was done, I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Don't touch it at all.
Right.
And then the next week, he went in and cleaned a couple of pieces up, and I go, this is different. Well, I wanted to fix a couple of moments. No, what you had was great.
Yeah.
I want that. Because it's not losing your child is a very messy feeling, you know what I mean?
right.
So if you start to clean up
It can't
here
be
and there,
perfect.
then
Right.
it starts to feel too neat.
Yeah.
So then literally the next week he tried to sneak a couple of more things. And like, but I just wanted to even out. I was like, no. Let me back the original.
That's true.
That's the one. Right? But I loved it. And it was perfect. Like I was like, you did, it was perfect. I think he felt the need to like, well, it was just on the fly. No, it was like, it was whatever was happening was pouring
It was
out of him.
organic.
Right.
And it was organic. And it was
Yeah,
happening at
yeah.
the same time. And it felt messy at times. And like,
the magic,
and I was
right?
like, and that's it.
That's the
And
emotion.
he was telling me this story about for like
cool.
10 minutes. Like, I mean, and I love how you talk to me almost as an actor. I feel it, like, and that's very cool. And I felt exactly what he felt when he actually wrote that scene and direct that scene.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was
You know,
very
that's
cool.
such an interesting thing you say because there's a transfer of energy sometimes that you have when you're collaborating. And when you talk about chemistry, there's a transfer of energy that you can't force, you can't bottle. It's just there. And we have that transfer of energy. Just when I was telling him that story, I gave him that energy, and then he poured that energy into the music.
Cool,
Right.
man.
And I remember working in a scene with Anne Heche once, and when you're directing actors, like every actor works a little differently, so you kind of have to approach, what you need out of them differently than you would in other actors. So you always want to kind of get to know your actors and how they think. So when I was working with Thomas Jane, he's more intellectual. So like if I went in and had to direct him, I would talk to him about the scene, what the beats are, like what I'm trying to get, and certain emotions here and there, and we would talk about the intellectual idea of this character, And when I went to Anne is all feeling. Like if I tried to explain something, it would just go over her head because that's not how she works. And everything with Anne is just feeling, and that's what I love about her. She's just like pours her soul out. So I remember she had this scene, and I needed more emotion from her. And she did the first take, and it was a little flat. And then she went to the second take, and not flat, not bad flat. It was just a little. I needed more. And then the second take, I kind of I gave her a little direction, and it was kind of in the same zone. And I literally just went over to her, and I crouched down, and I grabbed her knees, and I looked in her eyes, and I said, Anne, and I squeezed her knees, and I looked at her. I said, you got it? And she goes, yeah. And I walked away, and the next take, it was beautiful to watch. And I didn't say anything to her. Right. It was more of like a transfer of energy, and she felt what I needed, and she just
nailed it.
Yeah. Those are awesome moments. Those are moments to live for in the creative process.
And that's I think when you have that experience, it's like those are the things that make everything else kind of wash away and go. That's why I'm doing what
Dude,
I'm
that's
doing.
I equate that to my golf game.
Someone has to squeeze your knees too.
No. I hit one straight shot down, and I get on the green in 2 shots, and I shoot one under par. That one hole will make me come back every single time.
That's crazy, right?
Every single time. So I totally get that.
So life gives you all the shit, but it'll give you these little gems. Keep going through the shit. Yeah. Right.
I want to discuss a couple things that something that occurred for us making Wheels. We all understand tempitis, like you've lived with something for so long that it's just become what you want, right? And all of a sudden you can't have it, right? Or what happened for Brett and I is they cut this killer sporting montage to a version of the Scorpions' Rock You Like a Hurricane.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The Scorpions then had re-recorded their catalog so that they could own it because they were on Polydor or whatever record label they were on back in the day, so they didn't own those songs. So they licensed the new version of the song that Brett hadn't
Well, they
heard.
just send it to us. This is what you get. And we were
Use this one,
Yeah,
yes.
we were expecting the original.
And it's in a completely different key because Klaus can't hit the same high notes anymore at 60-something years old. And it's a completely different song. Completely different feel.
I mean, you'll recognize it for sure.
Of course.
But yeah.
Everybody knows, here I am.
Right.
You got that in there, but it's completely different. So just with that in mind, how much do you have to give up to get the creative thing done?
Well,
know what
that's,
I mean?
that's minor. I mean, there's so many other things that hurt your soul.
Right.
Really? I mean, it is a team effort. So if part of your team that has the power of giving you orders,
right.
you got to just do the best you can.
Yeah.
But you're so used to just nothing. I mean, even when the final mix happens, a month later, you're opening it up again because someone said something, and now you got to fix this thing.
Oh, sure.
So it's an always evolving process.
It's fluid.
Just don't take it.
So you have to remain fluid with it. Yeah.
You do. Yeah. Absolutely.
And that brings up another point that I want to remember to do, but this one kind of goes to both Peter Winther and Peter Facinelli. When you're dealing with green screen and shit that's going to be composited in later, like how how do you formulate that, and when do you, as the producer, like, are you hands-on with the visual effects? Are you approving that stuff?
Oh yeah.
So when it's approved, like, is there a point when, say, Peter's interacting with werewolves that aren't really there? Like, how do you pick your line of sight, and then does that affect visual effects? Like,
That's a good question.
how do you make that work? Like, Peter, you might be looking like this, and the animal's up here. You know what I mean?
Well,
How
they
do
give you something.
how do you
to
give you
look at.
line of
They
sight,
always give
yeah.
you a line of sight.
Yeah,
I
you give
see.
you a line of sight, but it's changed over the years because like now the effects are so much more advanced.
Right.
Like it used to be like when we did Godzilla, we had when all the baby Zillas were in Madison Square Garden.
He said Baby Zilla.
They're baby Zillas. Yeah. And so
Not as great as Baby Yoda.
Oh, right, that's a thing.
Not as good as
Pretty
Baby
damn
Yoda.
close. Baby Zilla.
No, so what you do, the mechanical effects on set would like, a garbage can would move, so that's the actor would know like that's the Baby Zilla. But now you don't want to be tied into that stuff because now like they'll just make that a CG garbage can, right? So now, and what it does, it gives a lot more freedom to the actors, right? So they can act in. First of all, you would storyboard those scenes for sure, and and you'd probably have even some animatics for that. You know, like for example, in the Marvel films, my brother Lars is the AD on those things. Their animatics, you could release those as a feature film, and they would make a lot of money, right? So in those kind of films, those big budget films, the actors get to see all that stuff, and it's on set, and they can see it. And or in the Cameron films, it's even more than that, where now they can see what's happening as it's as they're looking at things and they see it, and later it gets comped in. So it's way more advanced. But in the traditional way that you're talking about, the way people that don't have those kinds of budgets, where it's a green screen, you give them eye lines.
I see.
Right. And then the visual effects artist will match that eye line. So the actor doesn't have to be exact because you can put that werewolf. If he's looking this way, that's where the werewolf will be.
You can go off
You
the
know?
actor sometimes.
Yeah, you go off their line of sight,
Cool.
which makes it feel much more accurate.
Right.
You know, that they are looking at something.
Right.
You know, but
Right.
but for the most part, and speaking of Star Wars with like things like The Mandalorian, they're even taking it to the next level, right? Where now they have screens there, but they're like, they have to grow these screens because they're made out of crystals. So they're like 3-dimensional screens. So it's not a green screen anymore. It's literally a 3-dimensional screen. And I only know this because I saw this interview of Kathleen Kennedy, and she was talking about how the Disney executive came to set and said, like, I thought you guys weren't going to be building these sets. I thought you were going to be using these screens. And they're like, yeah, you're looking at the screens. So the actors are literally, they're calling it, I think they're calling it stagecraft now, but that's like the
pretty
term
cool.
for it. So they're literally on set and you're seeing the stuff.
Wow.
Amazing.
on
I'm
the
lost.
screen.
Explain it to me because I've completely lost.
So instead of a green screen,
right.
like-
Just say this was the green
so
screen.
like
yeah.
let's take Hour of Lead, for example. So
the hump
in the
back,
lake,
in the lake,
in the lake where they're on the boats and you have that, and we're in the pool and there's a
Right.
green screen there. That screen wouldn't be green. That would be a screen that's like a 3-dimensional screen. So they would be looking and they would be seeing all the woods and everything.
Oh, so the actor
So
can
they-
see.
so the actor has
Actors
visuals.
see it. It's all in camera, right? So so it's done. The shot's done.
Oh, that's
You know?
cool.
Now
That's
they may
pretty
tweak
sweet.
it a little bit.
Could the actors see it or just
the
in
actor,
camera?
Wow.
the actors can't
That's
see it.
sweet.
That's what I'm saying. It's in camera where technically the composition's already done.
It's
Yeah.
live.
Because that it looks so real, that stuff.
Wow.
Right.
But so they're doing it on the
That's
on the
pretty cool.
Mandalorian.
That
so
would
it's-
make it easier as an actor because
right.
for an actor, it's really hard to react off of nothing. Like you're
that was why
behind,
that's why
and like all of a sudden you're like, yeah, there's a big bat that's coming at you.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot easier when you just get to react off of something
sure.
than have to act.
you would-
Acting's hard. Reacting's easy.
Yeah, like you would have like even way back in the days of yore when we were doing Godzilla, we would have, like cutouts or maquettes of the baby Zillas, and we would move them around because you also use them as, and then you would put them in the light, and they would
Right.
use them as lighting reference so that the visual effects artists can see how the light bends around that thing, so they can match the lighting on the creatures later. But now, like, in all these movies, it's a motion control actor that's playing all these creatures anyways. Like that werewolf that we were talking about would be probably a person, like with all the dots on him and
Right,
stuff like
right,
that.
right. Right.
And you get these people, like we had someone on Godzilla that we got from Cirque du Soleil who would move
Could
around
move like
like a
that.
lizard and stuff
Wow.
like that. And that was like ancient times. Like it's so much more advanced
Right.
now. So you try to give the actors something real and tangible
Yeah.
and emotional to act with, because that even the eye contact, if he was playing against a werewolf and it's still a human being doing that stuff, once he has to, the only thing he has to imagine is like not laugh at all the dots and the weird suit he's wearing.
Yeah.
Once you get past that,
You can use your imagination if there's
Yeah.
somebody like in a suit of some sorts and like, but if it's just like an inanimate object that you're talking to,
Yeah.
it becomes a little harder.
Right,
It becomes a
right.
little, and I think it affects performance. It can be a little flatter because you're not actually talking to some.
transference of energy.
Energy, yeah. There's nothing to
yeah,
transfer.
because it used to be
Right.
like a C-stand with a tennis ball on it, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's what you had, like in
Right.
Twister when they first kind of invented the tracking software, would be that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Planet of the Apes movies are
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh my God, yeah.
And
Yeah.
those, like, I remember taking my mom to see it, and she thought that those were actors in suits.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, no,
You know,
it's
I
actual
mean,
CG
it's interesting
creatures.
for me
yeah.
though, because like when I see the original Planet of the Apes, I think it's for some reason it feels more real and raw to me as a viewer. Like, I think it's because they are actors in masks, and like they do have a soul, and there is a
Yeah.
transfer of that
Yeah,
energy.
I'm with you on that.
And like, you know, even though. I mean, their special effects for that time period were pretty good. I mean, you look at the first Star Wars; it was pretty
good.
You know, it felt real.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's something
yeah.
about it feeling real.
Yeah.
Where when you start to get to the CGI, you know, stuff, then it feels less real to me. In some way.
But I think now it's like, because
There's a good combo.
it's
of
a good
both.
combo, because it was like that, because like when we did Stargate, we did an Independence Day, even that we were all real, like all miniatures, hardly any CG at all. Even like the jet fighters, like you have a cockpit, and then if you look inside, the middle level plane is like a toy plane, like a model plane that we built ourselves.
Wow.
And then the faraway planes are little Matchbox planes, and against a painted
That's
backdrop. So it was all in camera. And we did all that stuff, and everything was compositing. It was about shooting elements, shooting layers and layers upon layers, and then compositing that together. Because we were afraid of CG, because CG it was just too clean.
Cartoonish.
Yeah.
It was too
Yeah.
clean.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that second round of Star Wars films didn't have as much love, because
Yeah.
they were too clean.
Yeah.
But those movies have to get made like that, like how Cameron's got to make Avatar,
So that you can improve it.
so we
Right.
can improve it, or even like when he did. I mean, James Cameron's the best, because he'll do T2 and invent the morphine technology.
Right.
2 weeks later, you can buy that at Best Buy.
Right.
You know,
Right.
that's
Right.
how quick it works. I'm not even kidding about that. And same with CG water. Like CG water was the holy grail of CG, because the computing power of putting all those ones and zeros together, it just wasn't going to happen.
Well, for the
And then
longest time, too, it
Titanic
was
happened.
hair, man.
Yeah,
Oh, God,
hair,
yeah. CG
all
hair
that
is-
stuff. So now it does open the toolbox for storytellers, and you can lean into CG. I still think it's always better to do everything real first,
Sure.
right? I mean, that's the reason why special effects came into existence, was because there was no way to do it in the real world. So they came up with like, hey, let's do a mapping. We put some glass and paint it on here, and like use some forced perspective. We can create this huge landscape.
Right.
And I still think that should be the philosophy for most storytellers, is like do it all real, because it's all done, and
That's
you get
great
that
advice.
transference of energy.
Yeah.
Great
And then you
advice.
just keep moving. If you can't do it real, what's the next step? And what's
Sure.
the next step to create the illusion?
Yeah,
Because
right.
we're always creating an illusion no matter what we do. Even
Yeah.
if we're doing it real, it's still an illusion
Right.
what
And
we're doing.
practical
So
effects will hold up over time. Where
Absolutely.
CG, because it's advancing so quick,
that's
Right.
right.
You
It
look
becomes
at-
dated.
Something 7, 8, 9 years ago
Yeah.
now is starting to look dated, because it's so
The technology.
so
Like
amazing.
the
right
first
now.
round of Star Wars. You
Yeah.
know, with
Yeah.
Yeah.
what was that character with the bunny ears? Is that
Jar Jar.
Jar
Oh.
Jar Jar, the famous Jar Jar.
Michael, when you're dealing with CG, do you have like a good starting point, like when you get the picture delivered, to match it to the color of the scene?
It really depends on how when the color grade is scheduled, if these elements even exist at that point.
I see.
Back when I was doing mostly features, a lot of times those elements were still being worked on. So you only had the plate shot, which is the background. and somewhat of a rough reference of what the actual element will look like. And then you just do your best. And then when the VFX finally gets delivered, then you work with both the foreground and the background to blend them together. And a lot of times what's really helpful is if the VFX house that you're working with has an idea of the look of the movie that you're working, that the color grade's going to produce. That way they know how to light their elements. And so when both worlds come together, it should be pretty cohesive.
Nice. Cool.
So something I want to mention too, because you guys are talking about an actor acting to nothing, basically, and line of sight and all that. There's a couple of shows that are out right now. The Deuce on HBO with James Franco and his twin brother, right? It's James Franco, obviously, and he does such a great job. There's scenes where they're together. How do you put that together in a film? First of all, an actor acting to himself, which is obviously not himself. I'm sure there's an actor there.
Yeah.
But how does that work? And then there's another one with Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd, yeah.
Is it Living with Myself or something like that?
Netflix.
And it's so good. It's so good. How do you do that as an actor?
I don't know. I haven't done that, but I'd like to know if they get paid twice.
Right, yeah.
If they do, send me up.
Right.
It's usually
Michael Keaton
just
in
another
Multiplicity.
actor,
I mean, that was way back.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Sure, it's just another actor, and then they
It's a split screen.
Just,
Oh.
it's just- and yeah.
It used to be.
So how do you hold on?
Probably great.
There's
So
a
you're
lot-
acting to another actor, and then you're turning around doing their part, and you're
right,
acting
but
to
you
another
blocked
actor.
off the camera,
Well,
right? So you can overlay those two shots.
Yeah, I don't even know. How do you
it might
accomplish
be
a
green
split
screen too, because if the characters pass each other, then you can't.
Yeah.
It depends. Yeah, it depends how the crossing is. If they stay on either side, then you could do it in the Avid. Basically,
Right.
it's a split screen.
You can
when-
do over the shoulders over any actor that has the same
Yeah.
kind of
Right.
shape.
But otherwise,
Right.
yeah, it would be a green screen thing where you just shoot multiple passes and then you composite it together, and then you have another actor playing that stuff. So
That means you got to learn both
Oh,
lines.
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
I mean, if you
That's
have
what I'm saying. You
have
better
you
get
seen,
paid.
Oh, I've
Double
seen
work.
you. I've seen you
double
act, and like
bitches.
when the other person doesn't remember their lines, you're telling them their lines. So I've seen that happen.
That's hard
I'm mouthing
work.
their lines.
yeah.
I mean, is that a project you'd want to take on? Something like that?
I mean, honestly, if it was like the lead 17 hours a day and I was just always acting with myself, I honestly wouldn't. Because I would
a
get
lot.
bored, acting with myself all the time, as
Yeah.
most actors do, when they work with me. But
That's true.
but the other is it's a shitload of work to have to learn both sides of the scene.
Right.
And then have to literally, I guess you would have to do it on 2 separate days. Honestly, I can't imagine doing it all in one. I mean, maybe because you have to, because you're shooting usually locations is how you do it. So you would have to go and shoot that one side of it, and then I'm assuming you'd have to change your clothes
Yep.
and then go shoot the other side and just
Mess your hair up.
literally prepare that character. It'd be tough. That's a tough thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it seems like that would be I get it. You write that into a script if it's in the script or whatever, that they're twins in the case of the Deuce, but it just seems like a lot more work, right? You know, I mean, you don't get to do those same takes in one day. It
would be
to
fun
change.
if you're playing one at a time, and the Deuce, I'm assuming he's not always acting with himself.
It's rare, but
rare.
there's quite a few scenes. There's quite a few scenes, several
But
actually.
it would be
in
fun
one.
to play two characters, in the same show. You know what I mean? Like if I'm playing two brothers,
Eddie Murphy.
that'd be
Kind of
super
thing.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just doing it with yourself would be tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming that would be tough.
Can
haven't done it.
I have to bring up something. Remember when we were talking about life intruding? So because I'm late, I have something at 5:45. I have to leave.
Not a
just
problem.
now. So
Absolutely. Thank you, Peter.
but
We appreciate you
but
coming on.
I could have talked like this for hours because it's a great conversation.
Yeah, this is
and
fun.
so it was a pleasure, and I really apologize about.
No, please
the
don't.
flight.
But just commit to us to come back later.
For sure,
and
absolutely.
we'll do this again.
Yeah, for sure.
Very cool.
Okay.
So we're gonna excuse
Thank you.
Peter.
Bye,
Thank
Peter.
you, Peter.
Nice
Bye,
to meet
Peter.
you.
Take it easy.
All right, so
We're back in. By the way,
we're back in.
La-di-da.
So these are fun. These are fun questions. I need again. This is probably the fourth time I've said this. I need to change the name. because they're not rapid fire. They're just fun questions. And we'll go around the room. First one is texting or talking. Which do you prefer?
Brett.
Talking.
Brett. Talking. Okay.
Talking. Peter.
Texting.
Yeah.
Texting.
Mm-hmm.
Talking.
Talking. Okay.
It depends who I'm interacting with.
Right? Doesn't it?
Michael's got a gobo up in there.
But
Who is it?
most of the time it's talking, face to face.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's those people you're going to be in a long conversation.
Right.
I want to actually ask you about fan base. Do you get like trashed when you're out in public? You're like you're the quintessential movie star. You know what I mean? You're like People Magazine. You're on.
I do feel like I get recognized on the street, and I forget sometimes, like, because people be staring at me like, what are they looking at?
Something in my teeth, yeah.
Do I have a booger?
But for me, like, I've been with other actors where they're like, somebody will come up to them and say, hey, can I have an autograph? And they'll be like, I'm sorry, I'm on my time. And I'm like, as for me, there is no my time. Like, the reason I get to do what I do is because of my fans.
Yeah.
So if they're,
Great point.
And also I can never say, that I would never give a picture or autograph to a fan, just personally, because I would never want to go up to somebody that I admire and go, can I have a picture, and get shut down like that. That's got to be the hardest feeling. So like, if somebody comes up to me, I'm ecstatic to give them the attention that they are giving me. You know what I mean? Again, it's that exchange of energy.
Right.
So I'm always happy to give a picture and
Nice.
That's great.
an autograph to people.
Good for you, man. I've heard both sides of that story. Like, never meet your heroes because they can be completely the wrong person.
Assholes.
Yes, but like for that example, I've worked with Burt Reynolds, and he was so sweet and genuine. And,
How great is it to meet your hero and he or she's just awesome?
Right.
I completely agree.
I just try to stay quiet because whatever they have built up in their head about me, I don't want to destroy it. I'm like, why are they crying right now? I don't know. Like, but I'll just stay really quiet.
Use few words.
I don't want to ruin their whatever they think of me. So I'm just like, I'll just say as little as possible, and I leave them with their image of me
That's great.
because I don't want to ruin their.
Right. Yeah. All right. So, what's your favorite day of the week?
Oh, wow. Today.
Yeah, good answer.
I'd agree with that. Honestly, like, when you're an actor or when you're in the business and you don't have to go.
It's not a Monday through Friday.
There isn't no Monday.
Yeah.
I remember talking to my agents once, and I hadn't worked for a couple of months, and he said, oh, thank God it's Friday. And I said, he goes, thank God the weekend's coming. And I said, well, every day's a weekend for me. I want a Monday.
Yeah.
So I want to work.
Let's get some work.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like,
It's a different perspective.
It's a different perspective. But yeah, it's like when you're filming, you never know if it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
That's
Friday.
not a normal schedule.
It's just not. No, I don't have a normal schedule. I never know what day it is a lot of times. So that's a hard.
That's
one.
interesting.
Yeah.
It's wholly different perspective there. Sacha?
Like the freelance job is great because you can actually hang out like whenever you want.
Yeah.
So like you just do your own schedule.
Every
That's
day's
awesome.
a Friday.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Sunday.
Yeah.
And actually, it's cool because if you want like less crowded place or something, like you just hang out like on a Tuesday, and nobody would
That's a
actually.
good
That's
point.
That's
super
true.
cool,
Yeah.
It's funny how I'm trained though, because sometimes I'll go away with my girlfriend and we'll go down to Mexico like for a little vacation, and I'll still go on a Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, right?
And I'm like, I could go
any
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it's way cheaper, and nobody's there.
Exactly.
And I'll end up going on a Saturday, Sunday. I'm like, why am I going on?
Yeah.
Why don't I do this on a Wednesday?
It's just your mind is trained
So true.
to
That's
like
funny.
have like a certain element. But he's right. When you're freelance, it's like it's just every day is today.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great.
Which is great. I'm blessed. We
That's
feel
so true.
blessed to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Absolutely.
Michael?
So, let's, in this industry, let's throw away the calendar. Let's throw away the Monday through Friday or, the weekend. To me, my favorite day is when I get to recharge.
Oh,
Nice.
that's good. That's a great answer.
That's a good day.
Be with my family or be with my friends and just be human, and not have to think about what I'm involved with the next project or the project I'm working on. Just a recharge day. That's
Yeah.
my
You know,
favorite day.
and that's what
I
the
like that.
weekend is to the Monday through Friday.
Right,
folks.
exactly.
It's a recharge
You know,
day.
That's all that.
That's
That's
all
all
it
it
is.
means,
Yeah.
really.
just
So
to
you're
be a
right.
human, you know.
I mean, it's
all
like
it
saying,
is.
what's your favorite month? But then I guess there's weather involved in the month.
Yeah, yeah.
But if every month was like, 80 degrees and
Los
wouldn't
Angeles.
matter. Yeah.
It's like,
Every month was Los Angeles.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Or Burbank, because it was nice. Nice. It was nice down here, man. All right.
I'm getting spoiled because I'm cold. Like I wake up and I'm like, I'm freezing. But I grew up in New York where it was
Same
really
here.
cold.
Yeah.
I grew up in
So
New York and
very
New Jersey, and I lost my thick skin years ago.
Yeah.
Blood thins quick out
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Well, speaking of cities, your favorite city in the U.S. besides the one you live in?
I have not been to every city, so it's hard to say.
what's your favorite that
Is there-
you've visited?
Yeah, it doesn't have. It's just any one that you may have visited. Like mine's Cambria, California. I love it up there.
What do you
Beautiful
love
place.
about Cambria?
Oh, it's like a pine forest on the beach, man. It's like the mountains meeting the beach. It's just
Nice.
beautiful weather.
That's interesting. I guess it's depends on what I need.
Yeah.
Like, if I want to go chill and relax somewhere, mountains or always, camping or something. But
Okay.
if you want to have a night on the town, then LA is hard to beat. So,
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah, that's a tough one too. Again, it's like, I mean, I grew up in New York. I love lots of things about New York, and then I love lots of things about LA. I was just in New Orleans. That was really fun. But yeah, it's really tough because it's like there's
But there's
little
things
city.
that each one brings
Yeah, of
that's
course.
unique and cool
It's-
about.
I do like that kind of middle America small town. There's something really appealing to me. I remember I took my kids once to. I just kind of opened up this book and I was like, "Where am I going to take my kids for the 4th of July?" And I ended up taking them because I saw in this book. It was the biggest ketchup bottle.
Oh yeah,
One of those little, yeah, it was literally just a water tower painted as a ketchup bottle. I was like, and I jumped on a plane and took them to this little town.
That's funny.
And like it was in Illinois, I think. And I went to this festival that was like 2 days after, and I ended up going to just getting on a plane to go to like Middle America because I wanted to do like a hula hoop contest, and I won.
Hey,
Nice.
And then I had to like throw this granny to the ground too. It was ugly. It was ugly. But, like
Facinelli's dirty.
the water balloon toss and all that. Just those
cool.
little Middle America kind
Yeah.
of things. I got a kick out of those. I like those.
Sasha.
Like beside Los Angeles, which I actually love, Lone Pine.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
My
Where's
favorite.
Long Pine?
That's kind
Lone
of
Pine's like it's in the desert.
Is it in California?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in California, and it's like my favorite movie when I was a kid was Tremors.
Oh, yeah.
Tremors?
Hey, we
That
just
was
worked-
my
we just
very,
worked
very,
with somebody
like-
that.
I love the score. I love and
Yeah,
you know
we
they
did.
live in a small city, and I actually for my birthday like 3-4 years ago I went there for the first time and I actually saw like that city, and that many movies have been shot there, like many westerns,
Yeah.
like Star Wars, Iron
Oh,
Man,
wow.
many films, and it's so beautiful out there. You have like the mountains with like the snow, and
Yeah.
then right 10 minutes after that you have like the actual desert. Like
Yep.
it's amazing.
Don't you go through Bishop?
it's
to get-
it's
Yeah,
it's just north of Bishop,
yeah,
I believe.
exactly.
It's
Yeah. Jackie and I just went there.
Yeah.
I played a gig out in Hawthorne, Nevada.
Wow.
Right? Google Earth that city. It is a square mile.
You'll blink and
Don't
you'll
blink,
miss it.
yeah.
Oh no. It's better. Like zoom out and you'll see the world's largest ammunition
Oh my
supply.
God.
Oh,
they have
wow.
hundreds of underground bunkers full of ammunition.
Wow.
Wow.
That's what that town is.
So it was a support town for all the
Military.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the best trips I ever did was an RV trip across like America. I went
Oh,
from
yeah.
New York to LA, and I took about 25 days to
Oh,
do
God,
it.
that's a good
So
amount
I
of
just
time.
drove like 3 hours a day, and
Yeah.
I just ended up going across all the lower states I did, and then across Texas and Arizona.
That's Interstate 40.
Alabama.
Texas takes forever.
Well, I did the
Big
Panhandle. I did the
Oh,
Panhandle.
okay.
But I'm a sucker for that, like biggest ball of string. Like, I saw the, this big
What's in that
statue.
Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was
exactly. The
basically- it was this-
dinosaur in Palm Springs.
There was this statue, and it said of Superman in this little magazine. It said hometown of Superman, Metropolis, Illinois. And I was like, I gotta go there. It was like
Yeah.
this giant statue
That's
of
funny.
Superman.
That's cool.
And I drove there, And my RV was like bigger than the like town center, and then I went into this little museum, and it was like someone's house, and it was like you pay $1 or $2, and like there's a guy in there with a big trucker hat, and I said, my daughter was 5 at the time. I was like, hey man, got a bathroom for my super little girl. And he didn't even look up. He's like smoking a cigarette. He goes, try the Super 76 across the street. Best line ever, man. I love you.
Cast him in your next movie.
Great.
Oh, that's good. You got to see that stuff.
Yeah.
You got to see it.
What about you? Sorry.
Yeah, Michael.
Yeah, Michael.
I'm going to have to cheat, and I'm going to have to say there's 2 places that I identify with is New York City and San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
Because I grew up a little bit in New York, mostly in New Jersey, but I spent my early adult life in New York, in Manhattan, and then when my career first started coming around, it was in San Francisco, and some of my best friends I met in San Francisco. I met my wife in San Francisco, and it's
a lot of good things.
It's a city of neighborhoods,
And the San Francisco treat.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
I don't know what that is.
It's rice-a-roni.
Yeah,
Rice-a-roni. Exactly.
It's the San
But
Francisco treat. Is it really the San Francisco treat?
No.
Do you go into the
Maybe-
restaurants in San Francisco?
It's their
and
special.
you're like, can I have the rice-a-roni?
And they're always out of it.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, it's those 2 places I identify with mostly.
That's great.
Best life experiences there.
I love it, man. Good answers, guys. All right, so here's the last one. This one's fun. Would you rather be able to speak every language in the world or be able to talk to animals?
Oh, talk to animals.
Yeah,
I love it.
Brett.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I would go with every language in the world. I mean, I love animals, but I don't know.
But you don't necessarily act with animals.
I don't really. I'd rather be able to go because I love traveling.
Yeah.
So like, I would love to be able to like just be fluid in every language and like have that human interaction. I mean, it'd be cool to talk to my cat, but I know what it's gonna say. Feed me.
Peter, feed me.
They're not very complex, right?
I crapped in your shoe.
Crapped on your shoe.
Not a lot of complex. I mean, I would want to know why you crapped in my shoe. Like, what was your motivation?
Yeah. Well, you left me for 8 hours.
Right.
I have needs.
Yeah, I have needs too.
That's like one more thing that gets needy is you can talk to animals. It's just like,
Oh God,
That's a good point. Sacha, what about you, man?
Well, I would love to know like all the languages. That's awesome. But I have a little budgie that actually
that's
speaks.
true.
That
He
actually
speaks to his.
He speaks and he speaks French and English.
And he composes
he's
music.
the smart one that got his animals to speak to him.
Exactly.
He does have a parakeet, which I didn't even know. I knew that parrots could talk, but I didn't know that parakeets you could train to talk.
Actually,
I didn't know that because I had a parakeet when I was younger and it didn't say shit. But his,
because you didn't know to teach it.
I didn't know to teach it.
Yeah.
But his talks, it like
composes music.
it masturbates in front of the mirror.
That's
boy.
true. Actually, that's true.
I walked in, I was like, "What is your bird doing?"
Now,
And they
did
was
you
like,
teach your bird that?
I did say to him, I go, it
How'd
does
you
when
find
it's
that one out?
mastered.
Yeah.
Birds often do what they see
what
their
are you
masters
doing on the couch, Sacha?
I
Where is
don't
the
do
show
anything to any mirrors. I have to.
That's
like,
funny.
I actually my bird loves Peter Facinelli. That's for sure.
hilarious.
Whenever he,
That's a smart bird.
It's always like
That's a smart
playing
bird.
on-
It's always masturbating into the mirror after I leave.
Loves you a lot.
Glad I have that. That's why I don't want to talk to animals.
People or animals, Mintz?
I'd have to say people.
Yeah.
I don't want to know what animals think about me. But yeah, I mean, like Peter, I love traveling, and I'd love to be able to converse and take in the culture in their language, and definitely.
I'm animals. Sorry.
Yeah, I think we'd be.
I'd like to be.
I mean, we
removed out
can
of-
learn a language when we're going somewhere, but to communicate,
That's a language that's hard to learn. Yeah, you can't learn it really. But I think we'd be surprised at how simple it is for animals, and how much they don't really hang on to shit like we do.
Yeah.
Oh, they.
You know.
Well, ask an animal what their favorite date of the week is.
Right.
What's a day?
Like, yeah.
Food.
Yeah.
But let me
The
ask
time
the
you
room.
feed me.
Does everybody here have an animal?
Yes.
Yeah.
not currently,
Okay.
but yes.
Two dogs.
You got a bunch.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
he's got a
you
farm.
talk to them in a certain way,
Oh,
right?
sure.
You go,
Yeah.
Hey, baby. Oh,
You have your voice.
Come here to daddy. Let me scratch you.
Let's all record each other's voices. Or talk to our animals in right now. Let's do that. No, we do though. We have that certain way we talk to them.
Yeah.
And we think they get it. We're talking to them like they're humans, but they're looking at us like,
Yeah. Scratch me and feed me.
Yeah.
So that's it. Those are our
Gentlemen, thank you so much.
That was so much
you.
fun.
Really,
Thank you guys.
Really appreciate you coming by. And
If you're still listening out there,
definitely.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for sticking with us.
Yep.
Just
I
to get
will
to the
actually,
masturbating parakeet. It's worth it.
There's a payoff.
There's a YouTube video of that.
We're gonna have Sacha record it, send it. We'll insert it into the picture.
Please.
Kidding, of course, Mom.
We'll just blur that part out.
I will personally start the email chain, so we're all on the
Thank you,
email.
sir.
So
Like that.
again, thank you, Michael, Sasha, Peter.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brett.
It's a pleasure.
And
really-
thank you,
Peter
Michael, for
Winther.
putting it together, man.
Yeah.
Yes.
He had this
Well
idea,
done.
and he's like, "We're going to do this," and I'm like,
This is the
We
end,
are?
yeah, the end of the year panel. We're going to do
we're
this
gonna try and
every
do it every year.
year.
For
and
sure.
Have people come in and
That's
do
awesome.
this, and hopefully, here's the picture I see is the podcast grows throughout the year. At the end of the year, we have a panel, and we're going to sell tickets
"Oh yeah,
for
live,
people
live
to come
event.
in
Oh, Q&A.
into Q&A.
live
Oh,
event."
wow.
This
Yep.
panel,
I feel Madison Square Garden
Yeah,
coming on. Yeah.
right?
Through here.
It's funny that you said that because I was just thinking about that this week. I was like, we should do a live event, and we're on the same page. So that's
Nice.
perfect.
Yeah, thanks again to David Kitchens for
Yeah, for
letting us
sure.
take over the
Big round of applause.
David.
for
Thanks, Michael, for telling me that you were filming today. He said, make sure you shower because we're filming today. I was like, on my way here, and I turned around. I was like, I got to go in the shower. I thought this was audio only.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool,
Yeah,
guys.
I showered for you people.
Good
I got
stuff.
a haircut.
Yeah, say I did too today. Same exact one you got.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
man.
much.
Have a good one.
Cheers.
That was super fun. I do hope we get to collaborate.
It's been such a long time coming since I said to you